Hello, Mordarim here. In today's video I want to take a deeper look into the crafting systems of Corepunk. I played the alpha quite extensively, got to level 7.5 roughly, and I focused mostly on gathering and crafting. First, let's have a look at the systems in place. You have 4 gathering professions: mining, logging, herbalism, and butchering. Then you have 4 crafting professions with mysticism, weaponsmithing, construction, and alchemy, as well as cooking as an isolated crafting profession. This is important because the 4 aforementioned gathering professions and crafting professions all have efficiency attached to them. So you will see a counter, a percentage counter underneath mining, underneath logging, underneath herbalism and butchering. Those add up to 100 and dictate the efficiency with which you gather those nodes. This increases the proc chance for green or blue items, or purple later down the line. It prevents certain things from failing, and I think it increases the gathering speed. So it is strictly better to just gather one type of material. But this is not applicable as a solo player. You need to dibble in all 4 to really get the materials for each of the professions, the crafting professions. Crafting professions have the same system in place. They have a 100% counter you need to reach first, and this dictates how often something procs, or how often something doesn't fail. Your crafting can fail. This happened to me while crafting weapons. Was particularly frustrating because the drop rates for specific items that you need for crafting are relatively rare. So that one was not enjoyable. However, the overall structure of the system is quite good. Here comes the first thing that is not good. Something that is particularly bad. The crafting professions have combat boni attached to them. Each of them has their own bonus. So reaching the journeyman skill ranking with this one makes it possible to attach 2 runes onto different artifacts. The weaponsmithing increases your weapon damage bonus. Construction increases the artifact bonus. When we look at an artifact like so, you will see a plus 0.9. So I have 1 spell power more with this artifact just because I have construction journeyman. Alchemy allows you to use 2 consumables. Those consumables are particularly powerful. Those can increase your spell power, your attack damage, your mana regeneration, or your health regeneration. All of those boni are substantial, and if they stay like this in the game, you will have to lose your proficiency to level each and every single profession to the max. Otherwise, those boni won't be accessible. I thought it's dependent on the efficiency, but currently in this beta that is not the case. I have construction journeyman and have weaponsmithing journeyman, and both get the bonus. This increases the attack speed bonus, the attack damage bonus, and the armor penetration for the weapon, and I get 5% additional stats from my artifacts. So those stack and are not dependent on the efficiency. But the efficiency is extremely important. Without efficiency, your construction can fail, your weaponsmithing can fail, you lose the materials, and it is much less likely to proc to green quality or high quality. Proccing to green quality gives items a specific boni. For weapons, that is an additional socket, and for artifacts that's bonus stats, like for example slow resistance or cooldown reduction. So this means they need to gate this somehow, make it dependent on the highest proficiency, so the boni are only enabled in the profession you have the highest proficiency in, or delete the boni entirely, because there will be some imbalance. Like for example, alchemy elixirs seem extremely strong. Those are equivalent to additional artifacts. And the runes you acquire through mysticism are also very, very powerful. A percentage-based attack damage bonus, additional damage through other things, additional shields or damage prevention. So if you can acquire 5 additional runes, that's immensely powerful, but also 20% additional weapon damage. So if they do not balance this equally across every single stat, so you're going to need to grind a specific crafting profession to acquire the most power. I personally do not think that's enjoyable. Now, as far as crafting professions go, weaponsmithing I found to be basically useless, because you have a vendor, the Ratchet here, that sells gear score 75, gear score 46, and so on and so forth, weapons. Those weapons are particularly powerful, and I'm not entirely sure if this one is not bugged, because the gear score changes depending on the time of day. When you're crafting something, it can roll between a specific gear score, so for example 81 here, and 64 here. This influences the damage per second, the attack speed, the weapon damage of the weapon. Those values are also not tied to an uncommon item. An uncommon item, like so, the lumber grip, the third craft here, is worse than a white craft. It has much less damage, which leads to just worse damage per second. However, the chips could potentially remedy this one. Weaponsmith get access to this one later when the game releases or fully releases. We don't know how powerful those can be, but you can find on hit effects like Combo Crusher here. After hitting an enemy with 3 separate attacks, you deal bonus damage, has a cooldown. You also have an ammo consumption rate here. I'm not entirely sure what this one is. We didn't get to test this, but those seem powerful. So it can potentially be worth it to equip a lower DPS weapon, green weapon, because you can equip more chips. For the artifacts, that's not the case. No matter what artifact you have, a white one, a green one, a purple one, doesn't matter. You can craft a rune and apply it in the inventory to one of your constructs, one of your artifacts, and equip it. You will have the rune equipped on that amulet, on that artifact, and can benefit from this. This one is limited to 1, but if this stays like it is currently in the game, you will be able to equip multiple of those runes on your character. Those can be quite powerful. So the first thing I'm noticing is there is a lot of customization here, a lot of build depth just based on items. Depending on how you build a character, you're tankier, you're more DPS heavy, you have more movement speed because there are also options for that. All of which is very interesting. And all of those professions tie into each other. For the runes, you need composite materials, jewelry bones, jewelry wood, and ceramics. One of each gathering profession. So it is not enough to just focus on one because you need every single material. But that is a problem, right? Because you have your efficiency. Well, the efficiency for gathering is not that hard to manage. 1% equals to 1 craft. So if you craft 7 weapons, you get 7%. But if you gather 7 trees, that's easily done. So for gathering, you can swap between those efficiencies depending on the day. 1 hour of gathering will get you to potentially 100%, and you can just gather stuff afterwards. And it doesn't prevent you from actually gathering something else, as long as you have the skill level. Now, how do you craft? You look for a crafting bench. There are multiple on the map. For example, here you have the weaponsmith, here you have the construction smith. There is logging, mining, butchery, herbalism, alchemy, and mysticism. You can see they're quite spread apart, and you need to refine materials at the herbalist, then butchery, then the mining, then the logging, and get back to, for example, the mystic. That takes a lot of time and is very tedious. So I would like to see they move those in a little bit further, or even give us a way to quick travel, a teleporter, for example, from the construction site to the butcher, whatever, something to fast travel, or roads that give you 20 or 30% more movement speed, because currently you're crawling. It's so tedious to get from one place to another. Look at this, that's nothing. It takes like 2 to 3 minutes to get from here to the butcher, even potentially 5 minutes. It takes a long time. That is not enjoyable whatsoever. Another thing that I need to talk about is the sheer volume of items you find. There is a lot of materials. I think there is 4 different green drops per node, 4 different white drops per node. Then you have 1 blue drop at tier 2 and 1 purple drop at tier 3. And this is true for herbalism, lumbering, and so on and so forth. So your inventory is getting filled and filled and filled with stuff. Stack size is 20. So if you get 40 of them, you need more and more space, and that's also quite limited at 70. Now, how do you get her? You can see there is a lot to discover, a lot of map to cover. For example, you will see here a forest, a lush green forest. There is mostly herbs and trees here. Then you have the fields with a little bit of stone in between. Those also have mining nodes. There is everything here. You can butcher here, you can herb here, you can tree here. Everything is in this location. But if you want to specifically look for tier 2 things, you will want to look for something like this, like the forest. Or if you want to mine something, there is the wolf forest right here. You will see there is a lot of stone here, a lot of, well, mountain looking area, despite not being mountain. But there is a lot of mining nodes here. So you need to explore a specific region and look for specific nodes, and you will find those specific nodes then in this region because you remember them or look them up online. And there is quite a few things you need to learn in this game. Which brings me to the opening experience. Now the opening experience for gathering is rough. You start here, then you get a quest and it sends you to this house. At this house you get a quest to get a mana vial. No one tells you that you can buy the mana vial at this specific vendor, at the alchemy vendor. Maybe you need to craft it, but how do you get the materials? So you get to this vendor, potentially, you don't know because there is no marker, no quest marker. No one tells you that there is this specific vendor and this specific alchemy table, and that's not all. There is a little bit more. If you follow the road, and there is a cross section, and you follow the road left and then left, you are completely missing out on the artifact vendor and on the wheat tent shop. Now at this tent, you get the basic idea of what to do. You get told to get the campfire materials, like gather wood. You get told to eat food in between fights, that you should not constantly fight, and gather in between, scavenge in between to replenish your health, because the passive mana regen and health regen is in this game in form of stuff you can find. You don't need to cook stuff. You can just eat a carrot. It will regenerate enough mana for one spell if you have the mana pool, because everything is percentage based. Which also brings me to cooking, because there is a cooking town right here. You can find cooking stations also at different locations, like for example in the forest somewhere around here there is a cooking station. Same here, there is another cooking station somewhere around here, so you can find them in the wild. At those cooking stations you can find recipes for campfires. You cannot craft at campfires, but you can regenerate at campfires. But if you find a cooking station in the wild, you can potentially craft your campfire, craft your grilled fish or whatever, and still go on and beat up stuff. So the option is in the game. So cooking is special in that it requires a crafting station, but those are also found in the wilderness. Now, the recipes can be found in cupboards or just at vendors, and they improve your regeneration massively. Combined with the campfire, you can regenerate very, very quickly. So that's cooking. Cooking is something you regenerate your stuff immediately, fast after combat, but actually you don't need to. You can snack in between camps and you don't need the campfires. Like I can grind for 10 to 15 camps regularly without much trouble. What allowed me to do this is alchemy, because alchemy is amazing. Like it's one of the best crafting professions in the game. You can, for example, craft counterfeit painkillers. Those regenerate nearly 200 health. That's nearly 50% of my health bar in just 15 seconds. That's a lot. You can use that in combat. Then there is a mana pipe for 600 seconds. That's 10 minutes. You get passive mana regeneration that also works in combat, so you practically never go home. Those items are crafted by alchemy. However, the alchemy vendor right in the town can also sell those items to you. They cost 8 gold and you have a bazillion gold. You get a lot. So the alchemy crafting profession is okay. You can save up gold, but it's only available later, right? When you start the game, you don't have access to this one. So the first 1 to 5 levels are really tedious. But afterwards, the game opens up. You get your artifacts, you get a weapon, you get your mana consumables, you get your cooking up and running. You get a lot of stuff you can craft and dibble into, and you know you need to look for glades and specific zones to really gather materials. But you get those quests in the middle of a field. There's nothing to gather here. There's no crafting stations. There's no introduction to those. You're here. There's nothing here. You cannot gather anything here. You can find carrots, but the most you can do is run up to the kitchen, and you cannot really cook them because you need 20 gold at the start of the game to buy the recipe to craft those. Those are not basic recipes. You need to get those. So the opening experience, just from the crafting perspective, is atrocious. They need to streamline this so people get to know those mechanics, because those are crucial to understanding the game. Those are crucial to enjoying the game. Like, look at this. I can craft 11 campfires. I have still 4 and another 2 hardwood campfires. And you get so much, so you never run out of campfires, even solo. But especially not in groups. So the crafting is crucial. Everything ties into crafting. Crafting is something that makes the game enjoyable, that makes the game good. But it's so badly explained and so out of the way. You need to get this one tighter together so people know about it, so people get into it. It needs a better opening experience. But once you understand it, everything clicks and everything is really nice. It's something I'm very much looking forward to. This game has a lot of potential in this regard. Now, one more thing I need to talk about is gathering. If you do not have the efficiency, so if the percentage is low, you have 3 chances to fail. You can wait like 15 seconds because gathering is inconsistent. Like you have 10 seconds plus minus 5 seconds to gather something. Sometimes you click on the node and it gathers it instantly. Sometimes you wait like 20 seconds. So that's inconsistent. But if you fail sometimes, you wait 20 seconds to find nothing. So the bar finishes, but you gather nothing. And sometimes you find something and then it immediately fails. And sometimes you click on the node and it immediately explodes. So you have 3 chances to fail. And butchering is even worse because sometimes when you kill a boar or a wolf, those do not enable you to slaughter them, to skin them, because they need to proc it. The gathering node density is also very low. Mob density is also very low. This was a limited test with limited players and I still didn't find a lot of stuff to gather and a lot of stuff to kill. They need to up those values, 100%. Another thing for early game I would like to see them to do is maybe improve the cooking quality. Like bread is fine, you can eat bread, but that's what, 70 health? That's not a lot. You need to sit down to regenerate meaningful amounts. I think they need to up everything like by 50%, maybe even 100% to make it worth it. Like this one regenerates a grilled eggplant, regenerates 5.5 mana in 5 seconds. That's 25 mana at a mana pool of 697, and that's percentage based, right? If I unequip my amulet, see the value lowered and the value of the grilled eggplant also lowered. So those values are immensely unsatisfying. It's so bad. Like it's so bad. This one is good. Like the mana pipe is amazing. You can slap this one on, but it's 600 second duration. And this one also works in combat. Same with the mana potions. Like the mana potions can regenerate 50% of your mana instantly for 8 gold. Oh, you can craft it. Works in combat. But food doesn't work in combat. You need to also prep it with campfires to really get a benefit here. So I think they really missed the mark with the cooking. The cooking needs to be adjusted. They also missed the mark with vendors and explaining all those systems, all the crafting, all of those things. They need to explain this one at level 3. At level 2, right from the get-go, so people get to know this. The fields don't have anything together. Why are the vendors here? Like, now, I'm getting too far ahead because I want to talk about the quest experience and combat exploration in another video. Those were not the main topics and the test purpose of this test. This test was focused on gathering and crafting, and those have their serious issues. I will sum them up down below in the comments, so the pros, the cons, the suggestions, and what I found to be really annoying and tedious. But in video content, that's what you get. I hope you liked this video. I hope you liked the Corepunk content. I know it was a bit more ranty. I wanted to give you a bit more insight into crafting and all the systems and why I think they are good, but the early game is bad. So if you liked it, leave a like. If you have any questions or remarks, please comment down below. Thank you, Lyra, for helping me out with this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can join the channel membership or leave a donation if you have the spare coin. And you can check out my Patreon for AI art I use in my thumbnails. So with that said, see you next time and bye.